Hey, who's making this darn video? Me or Scott? I took my 2023 C8Z06 to Callaway Customs expecting an average set of events, but I was incorrect. Yeah, what I thought might be a small piece of metal to remove? No. A build is almost always more than what a customer might expect. Brains, muscles, sweat, more work to go from next to nothing to a show car. And why is Alex so happy? Well, because he and the Callaways took each step carefully for this build. I am almost constantly reminded as I watch builds like this 35 Ford truck get taken from a pile of rubble to multiple details amounting to something much more. We've opened the hatch, now let's jump inside the video. Welcome to Road Odyssey. Thank you very much for joining me. And if you like the videos that I provide, please subscribe. And if you're on Facebook, check out my Facebook page. Join me there. I'm going to follow Callaway Customs. That's Scott, Jason, and Alex, beginning in November of 2023 with this 1935 Ford pickup truck. And we're going to see what happens over 6 months. Destined to be a moderately high-dollar show car build. Seems like a good idea. Seems to have a lot of pieces. Nope. Missing a lot of goodies. Partially fiberglass as well, but has great potential. Who in the world would take a job totally stranded by prior shops, in pieces and incomplete? Well, Callaway Customs. Who did you think? Back in early November of 2023, they began this build. Very carefully, I might add. Important note. Now, the Callaways had other projects in the shop, including a Hudson from the same customer to work on. Therefore, work on this 35 Ford truck was somewhat intermittent. It should be obvious that a hot rod shop cannot live on working on one vehicle at a time. It's virtually impossible. Anyone who's been in a business like this would know better. So, especially when you think of downtime, waiting on parts from vendors, fabrication of parts, custom fabrication of parts, diagnosing issues, planning what you're going to do, etc. Back to the work in November, the Callaways removed the rear end and began going through what items were provided. There was a lot missing. The tailgate was twisted, but they could begin work on the rear. After removing the rear end, they began fitment of the 4-link triangulated suspension system. Jason had to cut out portions of the original large rivets, plates, and mounting brackets for the old spring suspension. And man, did I have fun trying to get you some fun pictures of the sparks flying. As quick as I glaze over all of this, the work really took a good amount of time. Here's a quick look at the frame with the new Speedway Motors 4-link suspension installed. Digressing a bit, this was a stock 35 Ford truck frame, likely Ride Tech coilovers, and a Speedway Motors crossmember and frame bracing kit. Very nice. Also in November, they had to remove and rebuild some of the firewall to accommodate the size and position of the engine, as well as some other items needing better positioning through that firewall. Getting through January 2024, a portion of the Vintage Air AC was installed under the dash. Jason and Alex then began mocking up the Mustang II power rack and pinion, then set up the clutch and gas pedals. Alex installed the four-way diamond streamline bulkhead AC line connector for the Vintage Air system. Those look nice and clean up the engine bay. Major surgery was necessary for revamping the dash to hold the new Dakota Digital gauge cluster display. Then in February, Jason completed this first pass with the Dakota Digital unit installed and the glove box door as well. Back in January, Jason ordered a new upper dash panel, black, that was twisted for the newer one, which is gray. Once that was fitted, Jason was able to begin work on the defroster venting in the middle of the new upper dash panel and the main dash itself. This was completed in February. Jason inserted, walls in the center of the dash as ducting into that upper panel. The gas tank was installed, then initial wiring completed in the first part of February. The last major task of January was doing the initial install of the all-new electric wipers. These came from Newport Engineering as the clean wipe system for 1935 through 1936 Ford trucks. Jason positioned the wiper arm locations, cut open the area for the system to be placed inside the cab, set the mechanism in, which required great patience, connected it from the exterior, and began testing. The fitment inside the cab needed a little bit of tweaking, but it worked like a champ. So they snaked the wiring through the A-pillar for future completion. Now in February only, what does a hungry and hot Gen 4 6-liter LS engine need? Well, a radiator, of course. This one's from Wizard Cooling Performance Radiators. It was out with the old, but not before taking measurements, then in with the new. Ensuring that the radiator and front grille were installed properly, the Callaways began bolting on most of the body components. Some pieces were missing, like the front fender brackets, so that was a bit of a speed bump. But lining up all the parts to the frame, well, with no instructions, simply took tenacity, becoming fairly easy once the front fenders were on correctly. The truck bed needed rear support. Jason welded in, possibly as a temporary, a good support off of the rear of the truck frame. This was needed for that rearmost bed crossmember. Now I'm exclusively in March and April. Scott Calloway was working on the mud plates, which go behind the cab, just in front of the rear wheel wells. Alex put in these really nice conduits for wiring to the door, and then working on the door window systems, which really required, at least on the driver's side door, had to hack into that. And while trying to get this installed, they found a large amount of Bondo on the exterior of the door. This is just Alex tacking in some of the little holes that were around the door seal. So just buttoning that up. And the rear window, a lot of the body of the truck was just really eaten up. But this is the interior frame that they were making sure fit back into this position properly. And then they had the shifter, which is really cool. Very nice shifter. So that will get installed pretty soon here. Wiring. Well, Alex had the grand duty of, well, like it says, just to slow down and relax and get all kinds of good stuff like the transmission harness, all the engine requirements, fuel, dash, everything wired up. So he had made a template and then a primary board that goes behind the seats, in which all the electrical brain and relay components go into, fuse box, etc. So he just started hammering this thing out. This was not too bad, very clean. And, I was very happy with the work he did. I think the customer is also quite happy with this. It really is quite clean. Everything's labeled and buttoned up really, really well. And then when you get down into the engine bay, you really see almost no wiring whatsoever. Alex did a great job of hiding everything. And when this is really finished, you will virtually see not one wire. Yeah, you'll see the coil pack wires, but really and truly that ought to be about it. Well, and of course, a very important item is the steering column. Just something else that they wanted to button up in the April-May time period to get this car to be a good roller. So all chrome, everything is really nice looking for this steering. And then down the knuckles and the steering rod in the engine bay was, not really hard to do, but it ended up looking very nice. So got that situated quite easily and nicely. It fit really well in there. So that was just a really good touch. Something that you would definitely expect for a good show car at the very least. They got a temporary steering wheel and really, tested this thing out, played with it, and it worked really well. I thought this was quite good looking. And one other thing that they had to finish up was the tie rods. So the inner tie rod was awful long. They had to replace the old tie rod end with a shorter one and get that buttoned up. So that was completed. And then the last real major thing they had to do was flooring for the truck bed. This bed came from the Smoky Road Rod Shop, and they had done one of these previously as a really large tilt bed truck. So that was pretty cool. This one's really nice. Once they got it all framed up, they had put in the hinges for a smaller lift section at the gas tank. So it's easy not only just to work on the gas tank system, but just for refueling and such. It just makes for a really clean setup. Let's watch them finish this thing out. I think you'll enjoy it. They finished this up. It looked really nice. And here is Scott giving a photograph to the customer. And they were just really happy with this. It was a really nice build up to this point. Although it's time to say bon voyage to the 35 Ford pickup truck, it has been an experience. It is a super clean build so far. It's looking very ship-shape. I hope you enjoyed watching this build video. It was very instructional to me. I learned a few things. The customers who came from about 2.5 hours away picked up the truck, and that was the end of it. All done. On these custom hot rod builds, you really do have to slow down and relax. The customer included. All customers need to really think about this stuff. There is a lot to go over, and these guys at all of these car shops are intensely looking at every little detail. It is a ton of work. In this case, the car's not even done yet. And, it's been a few months. It's going to go off to more body work, paint, and interior getting finished out. There's a lot more work to go on here. So I wish the owner a lot of luck with this car or truck, and just hope everything goes great. And for y'all, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. And please view as much as possible as well. That is very important. And with that, please relax, take it easy, and I will see you later. Bye.